Welcome to the White Knight Theater. Did you ever tell OJ's friends that without OJ, you might be able to handle it yourself? Detective Brown, what actions did you take after discovering bloodstains in the Mustang near the Simpson residence in Rockingham? Come on, everyone, stop what you're doing and let's verify this piece of evidence together. Dr. Lee, are you all right? The most crucial piece of evidence was only granted the most basic examination authority. Under heavy pressure, Dr. Lee Chong-yu, with his shoe prints, anticoagulants, and bloodied gloves, once again uncovered another key detail in this case. This fact is even more shocking than all the previous evidence. It all began with these pieces of evidence on the night of the crime. April 15th, 1995. After obtaining the judge's consent, the defense sent a large number of physical evidence to a medical center in New York. At the same time, Dr. Lee and Sam arrived in New York after completing their work to begin testing and examining all the evidence. When the sock, one of the pieces of evidence, reached Dr. Lee's hands, the bloodstain of Nicole on the sock had already been cut out. The remaining part available for Dr. Lee to test was less than 1 square centimeter. This was the part left after Marcia had taken a sample. Sam, start recording using audio. Normally, we would conduct serum analysis, but now we will perform blood spatter analysis based on the actual conditions of the equipment. The former is a deep analysis of blood to examine its composition and variation. Produced by Himalaya, this is the 23rd episode of the crime drama featuring the Chinese-American detective Lee Chong-yu. The police admitted to improper investigation procedures on April 15, 1995. After obtaining the judge's consent, the defense sent a large number of physical evidence to a medical center in New York. At the same time, Dr. Lee and Sam arrived in New York after completing their work to begin testing and examining all the evidence. When the sock, one of the pieces of evidence, reached Dr. Lee's hands, the bloodstain of Nicole on the sock had already been cut out. The remaining part available for Dr. Lee to test was less than 1 square centimeter. This was the part left after Marcia had taken a sample. Sam, start recording using audio. Normally, we would conduct serum analysis, but now we will perform blood spatter analysis based on the actual conditions of the equipment. The former is a deep analysis of blood to examine its composition and variation. The latter is a physical analysis of blood after it leaves the human body, based on its low viscosity and different states of motion, to determine the direction in which the blood attached to the surface. Next, Dr. Lee Chong-yu will further analyze the bloodstain on the sock. All right, stop recording. Dr. Liu, will you hate Prosecutor Marcia for this? Absolutely not. You have quite a good temperament. I think Marcia's attitude is really unpleasant. It's because Marcia is a woman who acts so aggressively, isn't it? Perhaps. I rarely see such a woman. So whose fault is it? Hers or yours? We are not enemies. We're just doing our jobs. You will eventually understand that your real enemies are those who are irresponsible and indifferent to what is happening in the world, not people like Marcia who want to get things done. All right, let's start our detailed work. As Dr. Lee Chong-yu got into his rhythm, Prosecutor Marcia and Attorney Johnny continued their fierce confrontation in court, engaging in a battle of wits over witnesses. Prosecutor Marcia successively called the detectives in charge of the Simpson case to the stand, attempting to lead the jurors to view the crimes committed by Simpson from the police perspective. Johnny's strategy was simple. Instead of responding to or refuting Marcia's narrative, he presented an alternative version of the story. They began with the cross-examination of Detective Vaniter, one of the first to arrive at the crime scene. Detective Vaniter, what actions did you take after discovering bloodstains in the Mustang near the Simpson residence in Rockingham on the night of the crime? Initially, we went to Rockingham to inform Mr. Simpson of his ex-wife's death. However, after discovering the bloodstains in the car, we began to worry that the Simpson residence might be a crime scene. We were concerned for Mr. Simpson's safety, so we decided to enter the house to check. Detective Vaniter, I have a question. 3 detectives were investigating the crime scene on Bundy Drive, and halfway through, they suddenly went to the ex-husband's house just to inform him that his ex-wife, with whom he had a marital relationship, had been killed. Is this normal procedure? Every case is different, and in this case, there was also a history of domestic violence between Mr. Simpson and the victim. Did Detective Furman tell you about this before going to Rockingham? Yes, he did. What was your reaction after hearing this? Did you start to suspect Mr. Simpson's involvement in a murder? At that time, we had too little information. Everything was possible. So, you went to Rockingham just to inform the ex-husband, or had Mr. Simpson already been a suspect in your mind before you went there? No, I'm sure we just went to inform the ex-husband. If it was just to inform, why did you enter the private residence without a search warrant? Detective Furman found several bloodstains in the Mustang and suggested that Detective Pullman, who was in charge of the case at that time, wasn't it? No, but that is to say, Detective Furman didn't have the responsibility or obligation to go to Rockingham. Yet he went there and discovered some so-called suspicious signs, which led you to break into Mr. Simpson's private residence, right? Correct. Johnny implied to the jury that Detective Vaniter, who was in charge of the Simpson case, had a preconceived suspect during the investigation. He then continued to question Detective Lang, Vaniter's partner, to prove that everything I say in court is true and credible, without any falsehood. Detective Lang, did you take Mr. Simpson's shoes and socks as evidence during the investigation of the Rockingham residence? Yes. Did you enter these pieces of evidence into the police system that night? No. So where were the shoes that night? Before you entered the evidence list the next day, where were the shoes? I put them in the trunk of my car. So you took these pieces of evidence home? Yes. The investigation was too late that day. So I needed to Detective Lang. Where do you live? Sydney Stock Exchange, near Los Angeles, connected by a highway. Simi Valley is surrounded by mountains in the west, with beautiful scenery and many residents living there for generations, including many politically conservative traditional white people. Just 3 years before the O.J. Simpson case, a large-scale confrontation between the black community and the police occurred in Simi Valley. In fact, during the O.J. Simpson case, the slogan that the black community mentioned most during the protest was not to let O.J. Simpson become the next Rodney King. In 1991, Rodney King, a black youth who had been drinking excessively, was driving over the speed limit on California Route 210 when he was discovered by the police and signaled to stop. With the alcohol still affecting him, Rodney King refused to stop, and the Los Angeles police therefore deployed a large number of police forces to pursue him, eventually forcing him to stop. For police officers from the Los Angeles Police Department brutally beat and savagely shot Rodney King, who was drunk and not fully conscious. During this process, someone recorded the police's behavior, but it is thought-provoking that the recording only captured the violent actions of the Los Angeles Police Department and did not record Rodney King's provocation or non-cooperation. You took these pieces of evidence back to Simi Valley, which is 60 kilometers away from downtown Los Angeles. Simi Valley, I remember that the white police officers who beat Rodney King, the young black man, they also lived in Simi Valley, right? So, how long did Mr. Simpson's shoes stay in Simi Valley? About 6 hours. How long? I didn't hear that clearly. The jury might hear it even less clearly, 6 hours. Evidence related to a black suspect was left unattended in Simi Valley for 6 hours. Detective Lang, how long have you worked for the LAPD? 28 years, 18 of which as a detective, a considerable length of time. In your long career, how many times have you taken evidence from a crime scene home overnight? Hard to say. Let me put it another way. Before the Simpson case, have you ever taken evidence home overnight? Never. Let's summarize. So, in your 18 years as a detective, this is the only time you've taken evidence from a crime scene, put it in your car, driven home, and only registered it the next day. Yes. So, how are we supposed to interpret this non-procedural action of yours? It's about Simpson. Just bad luck? Your questioning is making an impact. During Detective Lang's response, several black jurors frowned repeatedly, and at the end of the questioning, one of the jurors even cast a sympathetic glance toward O.J. Simpson in the courtroom. Can all these coincidences be simply attributed to improper procedures? This became a question hanging over everyone's head. Meanwhile, in the laboratory, Dr. Lee once again made a stunning discovery which was just the starting point of the core controversy in this case. Come on, everyone, stop what you're doing and let's verify this piece of evidence together. Dr. Lee, Dr. Lee, Dr. Lee, Dr. Lee, are you all right?